tactical technology on sets of buses, trains, trolleys, and regional rail. For help navigating the city or region or planning your trip, please visit SEPTA.org or call 215-580-7800.
Good morning, guys. I'm here at 5th and Market in my hometown of Philadelphia, and they've really done a good job with this station. Now, I'm not going to lie, the Market Frankfurt L is not what it was back in the day, but the train stations, they're really working hard to build it up. This is the Independence Mall at 5th and Market, which is heading towards Old City, Philadelphia, and it's so much history, and they did a good job. Check this out. So any other time just going to work or rushing, you don't get a chance to really just look at everything from a tourist perspective. So I'm here to help you with that. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, Octavia's Palace, and I have more to come. And today is a free day at the museum. I already got my ticket for the Constitution Center, so travel with me to the museum today. Alrighty. So this is how it looks coming from the direction I came from. You could say I was going eastbound to Frankfurt section because I was coming from Southwest Philly, which is like West Philly. But this is the train station. They did a really good job with this construction. There's the boars across. This is a major hub here. You have the Sightseeing Philadelphia. So if you ever come here, definitely check it out. I will do the boars maybe after the museum. This is the Jewish museum right here. It's really cool. And I'm going over here to the National Constitution Center. And I might go in the Jewish museum because it is free admission. But we'll see. Sorry, I'm out of breath. I just wanted to show you what it's like downtown Old City, Philadelphia. This is Independence Mall area, this whole area. And this is a really good place to come to. And then you see how they have the sightseeing, and this would be the tour. I might do it one day. I mean, the hop on, hop off. Maybe one day I'll do that. All right, so I'm gonna cross the street, guys, and I'm headed to the Constitution Center, which is right over here. So, and if you know me, I try not to get too many people in my videos. But the Liberty Bell is free, so a lot of people will go there. But I'm gonna go ahead and go to the National Constitution Center. If I have time, then I may go to the Jewish Museum, and then I may go into the Boers so you can see what that's like. And they have this new Illusion Museum is right in here. Really cool. So Philadelphia has a lot to offer, and I'm showing you from a resident and local. I am from Philadelphia, so I know my information. Okay? Follow me, subscribe, like this video. Thank you. So today is Memorial Day. That's the Independence Mall area. And that's where the Declaration of Independence was signed, right here. This is where the Liberty Bell currently resides, over here. That's why there's a long line. It is free. This is the Visitor Center. And that's the National Constitution Center that I'm going to today. They had the special weekend for Memorial Day, and it's free, so I got my ticket, and I wanted to be down here at 10 o'clock. It's a little after 11, but this is me we're talking about. So I'm gonna go ahead and walk inside. Well, the visitor center, I'll walk inside that later. I'm just gonna go straight to the museum, and then if I have time, I'll show some other things so that you can get a taste of what it's like to come to Philadelphia. I decided I'm gonna make a quick little pit stop while I'm over here. Look how they have this display. And let's go in. Really cool. See, the gift shops are down that end. You can take pictures and everything, and red, white, and blue. That's really cute. So I just went ahead and, oh, this is so cute. So I would say, even if you're from here, you know, make sure you come to the visitor center and, you know, support local artists such as this store here. You know, I grabbed this book. I thought it was really cute, and I may do a story time on my page as well. And I just wanted you guys to see like what the vibe is like. But when you come to Philadelphia, make sure you come to the visitor center. And it's really nice out. I decided at the last minute to come down here because it's Monday, it's Memorial Day, and the crowds are really from the weekend. And then today it's like, it's gonna be a rainy day. So I'm gonna try to make this a quick trip. And yeah, so I'm footsteps away from the Constitution Center, and I'm gonna enjoy the exhibit. I hope they still have the exhibit that I wanted to see before. And I got my rain jacket. But this one's called Under My Hijab. And I picked this up from the little black book that they have where you can take a book, you can return it, you can keep it, however you want to do it. Okay, I'm just gonna illegally cross the street. I always cross at the corner, but you know, I might get a Starbucks too when I leave. All right. So the National Constitution is really nice. They even host events, like if you wanted to get married, I think that balcony, like up here, like people get married there and stuff. So they rent the space out. It's very nostalgia. Like I love my city. And so I go other cities. I said, let me do the tourist standpoint from my own city. Now I'm gonna get checked in and I'm just gonna show you some exhibits and then we'll go to some other stuff and be out. Hola guys, so this is the Civil War and Reconstruction exhibit at the National Constitution Center. And you have to come here when you get a chance. It has a lot of good information, but something that really stuck out to me is the American experience under slavery, right? It says beginning in the 1600s, human beings along the African coast were captured and traded in the English colonies of North America. Congress ended participation in the international slave trade in 1808. However, enslaved people of color continued to be bought and sold within the United States. Enslavement stripped people of their basic human rights. Under this forced labor system, slave owners asserted control through torture, terror, and assault. States even criminalized literacy among enslaved people. To protect this institution, many southern states suppressed anti-slavery speech, writing, and preaching. People fought against their enslavement in every way possible. In addition to fleeing north, some organized rebellions or initiated freedom suits in the courts. Others built churches, opened secret underground schools, and against all odds, Black people fought to maintain a sense of self, family, and community. So that really stuck out to me because it's just amazing how, like, technically you could say it would have ended in 1808, but officially in the United States, it did end in 1865, right? So that's a long time. So when you get a chance, make sure you come to this exhibit and see this, the Reconstruction and Civil War at the National Constitution Center. Okay, so I just wanted to read this so you guys can get the grasp of Reconstruction. So it says, an economy powered by slavery. From 1800 to 1865, as I just mentioned before, enslavement ended in June 19th, 1865. That's why we have Juneteenth. So it says from 1800 to 1865, the value of enslaved people increased dramatically. Their labor and their bodies were a source of great wealth. Across the United States, Americans profited from the crops cultivated by enslaved laborers, including cotton, tobacco, and rice. During the 1850s, cotton proved increasingly lucrative, causing many to fight for the production and expansion of slavery. So it says slavery's impact reached deep from the South to the North. By the 1830s, few enslaved people remained in the North due to state laws that banned or gradually ended slavery. However, many states imposed restrictions on the rights of free blacks. Northern banks, merchants, and insurance companies provided economic resources for southern plantations and businesses dependent on trade with slave states. So it was all about money, guys. Okay, so our enslaved ancestors, if we were looked as property because we were invaluable, right? So make sure you come to this exhibit. and you learn your history, African American had no right in which the white man was bound to respect.
By the way, Max Brown's probably the best known one. I think a lot of people know about him.
Right,
But they're
right.
all incredible.
Yeah. Explore the stories. Right, Harriet Tubman, Elaine Craft, Sojourner Truth. Yeah, Henry Box Brown, I think is my favorite because I don't know if I could have done that. Not that it's funny. Harriet Ann Jacobs and Frederick Douglass. Yep.
That map is based on the 1860 census. You know, they count us every 10 years. In 1860, the Civil War is right around the corner, getting ready to start. And it shows the so-called border states and the southern states. Where it's relevant for this exhibit is that every one of those outlines is a county. The number inside the county is the percentage of the population of that county who are found to be slaves. The darker the tone of the county, the higher the slave population within that county. So a lot of them, especially along the river, let's say you're looking at the Mississippi, way in excess of 90% of the population.
That's where we're
It's
from.
incredible,
right there.
isn't
I see us right there.
Yeah.
We're real dark.
it? Well, you know, it's an agrarian society. There was no West Virginia yet. So
Yeah.
this was all Virginia.
Yeah.
So we had tobacco
Farmlands
along the coast,
Yeah.
rice,
Rice plantation.
and along northern Florida was sugar cane, and in the deep south, what else? Cotton. And you can also see the effect that rivers had. You know, the roads were awful, but they still had to get their stuff to market. So the easiest thing to do was get it down to the river and float it downstream. And where that really jumps out is look at Missouri. Look how white it is.
Yeah.
But then look what happens along the river. The percentage of slaves skyrockets.
Yep. So the curator was very nice. He gave me some good tips here. I've been at this exhibit before, but sometimes when you take the time to really read and kind of just get a sense of what everything is, it's like, wow, it's so many things that you may not have seen before, you know? So I'm just trying to like really dive in and take it in, but I would definitely recommend you come here. Come here and get to know, oh, this is a good one here. Okay. So ending slavery. As soon as the war erupted, enslaved people embraced the chance for freedom. They sought protection in army camps and Union-occupied territory. Their demands for freedom and willingness to aid the war effort forced the government to address slavery and ultimately turn towards emancipation. To determine, the Confederacy Congress pushed various anti-slavery policies. It ended slavery in Washington, D.C., and banned it in the territories. On January 1st, 1863, the President Lincoln used his war powers to ensure the Emancipation Proclamation, promising to free enslaved people in rebel states. It also authorized the enlistment of black soldiers. While many Republicans, including Lincoln, knew that only a constitutional amendment could end slavery everywhere, the Emancipation Proclamation changed the character of the war. Abolition became a central goal. I'm sorry, abolition, yeah, I said that right, sorry. Wow, right? So technically 1863, but we always say that we're not free until we're all free, because that was in Texas, and that was June 19th, 1865. So you have to come here. This is an amazing exhibit.
By the way, can you hear me? What's missing? Couldn't be too happy. Now, once in a while, harmonica, but I think it's because they're easy to hide. No banjos, no guitars, no, so naturally, just clapping or foot right.
That's amazing.
I got 7.
7. So count the 7.
So they're playing a game, which I didn't notice at this exhibit.
So 7, 9, 7.
Mini ball hits the watch, ricochets off, and he lives. $1 million to one shot. The other thing is, look how tiny the printing is in that Bible. I don't know how I do, but can you imagine trying to read that by, let's say, firelight or a candle?
Young man.
Stop. By the way, if anybody ever gives you an opportunity to take a bite of hardtack, don't. Or call your dentist first. One of the two. You cannot imagine how hard that stuff is. It's like concrete. But, it's very light.
Yeah, I mean, it's better than nothing.
That's a southern style. The Union style was square. So I'm thinking they must have had a lot of smash burgers back then.
Reconstruction was America's attempt to rebuild after the war. However, Congregational Republicans did not seek to simply restore the nation to its original status. Black and white Americans continued to fight to end slavery, protect freedom, and guarantee equality, cultivating in the ratification of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. As early as 1862, politicians and citizens considered how to address the political, economic, and social issues arising from slavery's destruction. Following Lincoln's assassination, the new president, Andrew Johnson, sought to restore power to white Southerners. Congressional Republicans fought back, passing a series of landmark civil rights laws, establishing military districts in the South to ensure compliance. As African Americans sought the same freedom afforded to white Americans, they frequently encountered violent resistance. They continued to push the nation to protect their rights. With Reconstruction amendments, would the nation finally fulfill the Declaration of Independence's promise for freedom and equality? U.S. colored troops mustered out service 1866. This is very important, guys. What is Reconstruction? The nation entered a transformative period after the Civil War, known as Reconstruction. This was the process by which former Confederate states were restored to full participation in the constitutional structure of the United States. Political leaders confronted a series of vexing questions. Some challenges came from the war itself, such as how to handle the Confederacy's war debt, the punishment of rebel leaders, and the rebuilding of Southern economy without slavery. But the Reconstruction generation didn't stop there. They wanted to place the country on firmer constitutional footing, addressing questions such as, what is a citizen? What role should the federal government play in protecting the civil rights of all? Who should have the right to vote? So this is U.S. Senator Charles Sumner and U.S. Representative Thaddeus Stevens. Okay, well, look at this. A crusade for constitutional change. During the Civil War and Reconstruction era, many people, both black and white, pushed for freedom and equality. Discover some of the influential groups that helped to transform the Constitution. The war ends. During the Civil War, the nation held a presidential election. A vote on Lincoln's war record. A series of battlefield triumphs helped to secure his re-election in 1864. With victory in reach, the debate in the North pivoted to Reconstruction. On April 9th, 1865, Confederate General Robert E. Lee surrendered at Appomattox, Virginia. At Appomattox, Virginia. Shortly after, Lincoln indicated that no firm Reconstruction policy existed. The president did express support for limited voting rights for black men, especially for the well-educated and for soldiers who served the Union cause. A mere 6 days after Appomattox, the president lay dead. Actor John Wilkes Booth, a Southern sympathizer, assassinated Lincoln to avenge himself. Amid end of war celebrations, the nation descended into mourning. Wow. April 14th will be a day forever memorable in history by an act of atrocity that has no parallel in the annals of men. New Orleans Black Republican newspaper, 1865. So, question is posed, what happened to 40 acres and a mule, right? That's what we've been told. We're supposed to get 40 acres and a mule. It says in 1865, General Sherman redistributed land once held by white Southerners and set it aside for black settlement. This wartime promise for land vanished during President Johnson's administration. Johnson believed that freed people did not have legal title to land confiscated from white Southerners during the war. After much debate, Congress failed to stop white landowners from reclaiming their property. So in other words, you pretty much were a sharecropper working the land, renting it. You'll never earn it, right? So we were supposed to get 40 acres and a mule. Reconstruction had failed us as a people. That's why I love this topic so much, because people don't realize that as an African American who has descendants in South Carolina and in Georgia and in the South, you have to understand Reconstruction. You have to understand that the 40 acres and a mule philosophy failed us, okay? And we were not protected. So while it sounds like a good idea, but what happened to that? Seriously. Ending slavery meant building a system for free labor. However, many white Southerners were reluctant to pay African Americans for their work and often prohibited them from purchasing their own land. To make a living, black Southerners frequently signed contracts with white landowners who tried to control their movement, work, and family lives as much as they had during slavery. The prospect of better future where they could see actual profits from their labor caused many freed people to remain on the land where they had been enslaved. Others migrated to southern cities to search for work and to escape abusive planters. However, many African Americans, the promises of free labor turned into a reality of low wages, poor working conditions, and growing debt. Okay? So see this picture here? Working class at Hampton Institute, which is now Hampton University, historically black university. Finding family. So this is really cute. And I will link this in the video so you can find information. Finding family, the slave trade brutally separated enslaved families, sometimes even tearing them apart on the auction block. With the ratification of the 13th Amendment, family members sought every means to reconnect. They sent letters, as travelers, and purchased ads in newspapers, hoping to find their lost loved ones. So this is an example, like this one. I'm just gonna swipe for more. Let's just brother, sister, and mother run into each other at a train station after 33 years apart. So let's look at that. Chicago Tribune, Chicago, Illinois, November 17th, 1886. Wow, that's exactly 100 years before I was born. I was born in June, but I was born 1986. Isn't that amazing? So this says brother and sister, mother run into each other. After 33 years, Lafayette, Indiana, November 15th, an incident transpired here today, singularly illustrative of the infamy of the late system of Negro slavery in the United States and the ungodly rebellion that led to its overthrow. George, Movity, respected colored man of our city, was born a slave in Southampton County, Virginia, and in 1853, when in his 23rd year, was taken from his mother and sister and sold on the block to a Negro trader who took George to Mississippi and resold him to a cotton planter. The war came, and before it was over, George ran off, got into the Union lines, and became a soldier for his country and race's liberty. At its close, he settled in Indiana, and a few years ago came here today. He chanced to step into the Wabash Depot, Wabash Depot, and while there was electrified and almost struck dumb to find his sister, now Mrs. Petrin, and her husband and his old mother, both of whom he had not seen or heard of for a third of a century, and who is supposed to he supposed were dead. They were en route to Iowa. And in the merest chance, I was reading too slow. Let's see, in the merest chance, where was it? I clicked on, in the merest chance, I guess they ran into each other, but you guys get the point. 14th Amendment, citizenship, liberty, equality. For nearly 100 years, African Americans and others who took up their cause had insisted that the nation protect the rights of its people. These efforts culminated in the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment defined citizenship and overruled Dred Scott, 1857, by declaring that all persons born on American soil and subject to the jurisdiction of the United States are citizens. It also barred states from denying citizens many of their most basic freedoms, known as privileges or immunities. With the amendment, Congress also tackled critical war post issues, including the political rights of former rebels. While the 14th Amendment recognized birthright citizenship, its universal language expanded the rights of equal protection and due process of the law to all persons living in the United States. African Americans long pushed for equal access to an education, a critical component of their vision for freedom. After emancipation, Southern Black communities and churches founded schools, and thousands of Northerners traveled south to teach. Reconstruction transformed public education in the South for both Black and white students. Southern states had invested little in public schooling, but under Republican control, they established the first state-supported systems of education. They used public revenue for funding, believing that democracy requires an educated and engaged citizenry. That's amazing, right? It says an African American school in Kentucky. Education. That's a really big deal. Education. The legacy of the Freedmen's Bureau. Congress established the Freedmen's Bureau to offer relief to freed people while providing food and medical care. The agency established schools with the support of Northern missionary groups. By 1870, its education system consisted of 2,500 schools that served 150,000 students. The Bureau's funding ended in 1872, but its work remains relevant. The Freedmen's Bureau recorded the names of formerly enslaved individuals and asked about their life stories and families. Today, these records serve as a valuable resource for African Americans hoping to learn about the history of their families and the communities. And this picture is taken in Alabama, and this is from 1865 to 1872. So that's why we always say education is key. I have striven to obtain education at every sacrifice and every hazard, and to apply such education to the good of our common country. James, McCune Smith, the first university-trained African-American physician. Wow, okay. Hey guys, this is the last thing that I'm going to show in this exhibit. This is pretty much almost the entire exhibit, but I really like this, okay? We feel it to be very important that we maintain public worship and a Sabbath school so that we may be an established and growing people and be respected as welcome and efficient citizens of the United States. And this is about community and about marriage and about what is Juneteenth. On June 19, 1865, the Union Army arrived in Galveston, Texas, and announced freedom. 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, the Black community embraced Juneteenth, June plus 19th, as a day to rejoice freedom's arrival. Today, annual celebrations continue across the country. Slave owners have viewed Black churches as a threat, a rejection of the white gospel preached on plantations. In secret, late-night worship services, sometimes held in the woods, enslaved and free people living in the South sought solace in the church. They found comfort in biblical passages that affirmed their humanity and promised freedom. During Reconstruction, autonomous Black churches grew in numbers and strength. As the first institutions fully controlled by African Americans, many viewed them as symbols of democracy and freedom from white control. While serving as schools and places of worship, Black churches hosted celebrations, social events, and employment bureaus. They also held political meetings where Black people could express their hopes for equality, citizenship, and voting rights. And this is still reigning true today, right? During slavery, African Americans fell in love and married. Others were forced into arranged marriages by their owners. However, the law did not recognize these unions. Marriages between enslaved people held no legal standing or protection from abuse. Slave owners could separate couples simply by selling husbands or wives. With freedom came the right to make these marriages legal and protect rights to their children. For others, freedom meant the ability to leave forced, loveless unions. Embracing their new rights as free citizens, African Americans gathered before military commanders, local magistrates, and Freedmen's Bureau agents to marry legally. Tens of thousands sought to formalize long-standing relationships, while others wanted to marry for the first time. So this couple pictured from Hampton, Virginia in 1899 to 1900, isn't that amazing? And they were really old. And as a people, why don't we continue to get married, guys? Like, that's super important. Octavius Cato, a teacher and activist, organized black voters in Philadelphia during a racially polarized election in 1871. Many black Philadelphians went to the polls before daybreak to avoid violent confrontations. White mobs imitated black voters between South and Lombard streets, where Cato was fatally shot. That day, 9 other African Americans lost their lives while trying to vote. So that's why when we say vote, guys, because our ancestors fought for the right to vote literally, and they have his statue at City Hall, and it's on the south side. So on the South Broad Street side. So make sure you go visit. Not forever. No, it's okay. To be self-evident that all men are created equal. Okay, there you have it, guys. That's the exhibit. Make sure you come down to the National Constitution Center to see the Civil War and the Reconstruction. And that way you can learn more about your history as an African American here in the United States. Thank you very much. And now I think I'm going to go to the 19th Amendment, which is, I think this was a new one that I did not see. And I'll give you a quick glimpse and then I'm out of here, guys. These are the steps of the museum. And I just want to show you guys, and then I went there first to the Sidney Kimmel Theater first for the And then I went through the Civil War and Reconstruction, 19th Amendment. I did see that the last time I came, so you can definitely explore more in depth. We, the story of We the People. Yeah, that one was good. Okay, so I've been seeing some great curio areas today.
Yep. So,
Okay, can you explain it one more
absolutely. I
time?
can stand in front of here because he's referencing this.
Okay.
So, what I have next to me is a speech from President James Garfield when he was just a member of Congress at Arlington Cemetery. He's talking about how the statue on top of the Capitol awakened no pride, inspired no hope. What we're talking about here, the Capitol Dome in Washington, D.C., at the very top has a statue of a woman, and her name is Freedom. And she's supposed to represent, freedom for we the people of the United States.
Right.
She's facing east, the idea that freedom never sees a setting sun. And this speech, President Garfield is working that into it because he mentions that she's facing east in Arlington Cemetery, located in Virginia, across the Potomac River from the Capitol, was west of it. He's saying that when that was the home of Robert E. Lee, who was an enslaver, he's saying that the people there, freedom had turned her back to them, but no longer. And so he's saying now freedom has spread to everybody.
Right.
When he's giving this speech in 1868.
Wow.
He asked the question, so the statue on top of the Capitol building is called Freedom, and it's been years since I've been there, but I believe they have a scale model of it inside the Capitol Visitor Center as well. So you can see it up close. Since most of us cannot climb to the top of the Capitol Dome and get a good look.
Right, exactly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Guys, this has been such an eventful day at the museum and learning about learning about freedom that's on the statue of the Capitol building in D.C., Washington, D.C. Wow, I had no idea what that meant. So I did have his name is Brian, the curator, explain it one more time for me, as you may have seen in this previous clip. So it's kind of hard to see, but I'm just going to read this off. It says, Monday, April 17, 1905, the Supreme Court overturns a New York law on baker's hours. In today's Lochner case, the Supreme Court overturned a state law that limited bakery hour workers to six 10-hour days a week. The law wasn't really about the health of the bakers or the public, said the majority. The state had other motives with regulating working hours in a private business, and that, says the court, is a meddlesome interference with workers' and employers' constitutional right to make contracts freely. That right, they said, is part of the 14th Amendment guarantee that no one shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without the due process of law. Justice Holmes dissented. He accused his colleagues of deciding this case by the current economic thinking that the less government interferes with business, the better. The Constitution he warned should not embody a particular economic theory. The court is the one interfering here, and he and three other deserters say by substituting its judgment for that of the elected New York lawmakers. This is a fair, reasonable, and appropriate exercise of the police power of the state, or is it an unreasonable, unnecessary, or arbitrary interference with the right of the individual to present liberty? Wow. This museum is really nice.
The Constitution pointed the way.
We the people of Philadelphia. By 1764, a wealthy Quaker merchant, Caleb Cresson, owned almost half of the city block. Cresson built his house here, living alongside and renting to immigrants, educated professionals, laborers, and free African Americans. Some residents were very, very well off, while many of the working class could only afford to rent their homes. Combined with the historical record, archaeology reveals in hierarchy society living side by side on this block. While information about specific individuals is limited, what emerges is a complex neighborhood of people from varied economic, religious, and ethnic backgrounds, piecing together the past. Wow, look at this. So this is how they look. Like, this is the setting.
When we think about the objects of the past and we look at the objects of the past, we can look at them from two different homes. We can look at them from the perspective of function. What did this object do when someone was using it? And we can look at it from the perspective of what does this object mean to the person? So yes, these are plates, but they're a very special kind of plate. This plate came from China. It's called Chinese export porcelain. It was very valuable, cost money to buy it. So not everybody in the 18th century could have Chinese export porcelain. And when you did have Chinese export porcelain, and you could eat off of it every day, that meant that you were a person of considerable status. And this table setting is meant to reflect people of higher status who have different kinds of table manners, who eat different kinds of food, and so they have different kinds of objects.
Wow. Building an African American church. In his home, James Dexter held meetings that led to the construction of one of the first independent African American churches in the nation, the African Episcopal Church of St. Thomas. The congregation has worshiped continuously since 1792, making it one of Philadelphia's oldest African American churches. Plate fragments. Wow, this is a piece of the plate that they use. James Ornosco Dexter, a free African American coachman. James Dexter, a prominent member of Philadelphia's free black community, rented a house on his block. After spending his early years enslaved, he purchased his freedom for £100 when his master needed to pay off debts in 1767. Dexter worked as a coachman for a wealthy family, earning a position of respect within the community. Wow, you learn something new every day. Amazing.
Thing about the block that's not quite so typical of 18th century Philadelphia, and that was striking to us. There were a significant number of African American households on this block that are present really from the earliest periods when the block begins to develop in the 18th century. Indications that the presence of a number of Quakers on the block who were involved in the cause of abolition, that may explain the pattern we see where you also see more African American households than you would expect or that you see on some of the surrounding blocks. But it's one of those questions that we're still researching.
Amazing. Wow, just coming here for the day, I'm learning so much information.
What's distinctive about historical archaeology is we're excavating sites left by people who are literate, who have a written history and leave written records. When we excavate sites from thousands of years ago in the United States, that's not the case. You're understanding those ancient cultures by reference to the things they left behind, their objects only. We have lots of documents left by people in the 18th century that can help us understand them. And then we also have, as a result of the archaeology, the things they left behind. Historical archaeology is when you combine the things with the documents. And those provide you a much deeper understanding than you can gain from either source by itself. So as you begin to strip away the layers that have been superimposed over your target, we began to see a pattern of foundation remains where older buildings had stood. So as these long gone streets and remains of houses begin to kind of appear again, almost by magic, you literally walk the streets again, or at least in part. You can visit households. You can walk into a household. The house is long gone. You may have a fragmentary foundation, but by its shape, configuration, and size, all of which are known from maps, you can begin to really put house numbers on locations again, and then by reference, put the names of residents on those locations as they appear, from beneath the ground. It is not about what you find; it's about what you find out. It's like detective work. We're certainly not solving crimes, so sometimes there are crimes. that are evident, but it is like a detective working from clues to reach a conclusion. It's not the object themselves that's important. It's not the things we dig up. It's not a treasure hunt. And we do definitely dig up treasure sometimes, or at least things that are treasure to us, but they're treasure because of what they tell us, what they reveal about, say, the life of an African-American coachman in 18th century Philadelphia, a man whose name we know from documents, but who prior to archaeology might have been all but invisible. Through the process of gathering clues and little bits of information, like a detective, we can begin to put together a story of that man's life.
How would you start a nation? What would you do? Well, maybe you'd get some friends together, and if you thought it might help, you'd bring in some people you disagreed with or didn't know very well. That's what writing our Constitution and creating the United States of America was like. As real and as human as that. For 160 years or so, the European settlers who traveled to this land weren't thinking about starting a country. They were too busy just trying to survive. As colonists, the British government pretty much left them alone, which was fine with most of them. Nothing expands your idea of freedom and independence more than making a life for yourself in a new world. Then slowly, things began to go sour. The British government began interfering with the colonists, taxing them without their consent, and without giving them an effective way of complaining. Soon, there was a question in the air. Just who did the British government think it was? When the Revolutionary War finally began, when shots were fired at Lexington and Concord, they were being fired over just that question. Who did the government think it was? The colonists answered the question with the Declaration of Independence. Governments are instituted among men, they said, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Now there's a truly revolutionary concept, that the people have the power over the government, not the other way around. When the war was over, with their independence won, the former colonists were left with 13 United States, and what seemed like a simple idea, that these individual states could be both independent and united. But to bring that idea alive, to create a new nation that maintained that balance, required a combination of brilliance and necessity, and an understanding of human nature.
Sinus Hall is always very cool, because you get to explore, and these are actually the sizes of the presidents. They, to be honest, it feels like they were really short. But yeah, Sinus Hall is very cool. James Jonathan Dayton. So this is Benjamin Franklin here of Pennsylvania. Governor Morris of Pennsylvania. James Wilson. These are all the Pennsylvania signers here, delegates. So it's very lifelike. It's really cool. I like it. This is Hamilton, I believe.
Yeah, it's over here.
Alexander Hamilton of New York. So all my Ham fam, he was away in France. He was not at the Declaration of Independence to sign it. If I had that right. No, yeah, I forget now. Charles picked me in South Carolina, 29. Okay, real cool. Sorry, I misspoke. Hamilton is the reason why we have the $10 bill and the finances. But it was not Hamilton. It was another person that wasn't at the Declaration of Independence because he was in France, and I believe his name was Lafayette. I forget. I forget his name. But yep, see, look how cool this is. I wanna be in the rivers. Yeah. That's what it was. It was Thomas Jefferson that was in Paris, and that's why he wasn't there at the Declaration of Independence, because he was in France. So I'm sorry, I got it all confused. I forgot my history. It's one of those kind of days. But yeah, Hamilton is responsible for the finances. You know, this is amazing. And I guess I'm the short one. See, these are their heights. But it just feels like they feel like they were super short for that time period. People were actually shorter, but they're still taller than me, I guess. Yeah. I'm really short. I'm the short one. As you can see, I was just in the President Signers Hall. This area here, they usually use, I think, this area that you could book it out. I see people have weddings and stuff. It's really nice. You get to see, everything. Okay, guys. So I just left the National Constitution Center. I am look, I'm probably gonna walk to Trader Joe's to get this this patty I wanted. It's like a Jamaican patty. It's I put it in the air fryer, so good. And I'm at 5th, so I just gotta walk a couple of blocks down, and then from there I'll be getting the trolleys and stuff.